Right, hello everyone, and welcome to the Student Art Podcast. I'm your host, Ross Baxter, and today is episode 36 of the series. Today we've got an incredible guest for you. We've got an environment artist. We've got Jasmin on the show. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thank you for having me.
Anytime. I'm really looking forward to this. Everyone who's tuning in, by the way, before we even get into the podcast, all 1,800 of you, go spam her follow button. I'll show all her work on the screen right now. So make sure to give her a follow on her ArtStation, her Twitter, you name it. Go share the love. If you're new to the podcast is a weekly series in which I bring on industry guests from all creative backgrounds, from environment art to stylized art to characters, you name it, the podcast pretty much covers it. The podcast is live on 9 other platforms alongside YouTube. We're on Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, and last but not least, we've got Stitcher. If you're listening on YouTube, don't forget to leave a subscription and subscribe to the channel and leave a like if you enjoyed today's video. But last but not least, we've got 2 shoutouts for this week. I do apologise if I butcher the names. So we've got Salvador Flores and Magdalena Shchervenikova. These are 2 artists who've shared their work in previous podcasts. Salvador is actually an environment artist. I'll show you his work right now on the screen. I was actually checking out, if you're listening right now, checking out your piece, and it deserves way more likes. The ArtStation piece, it looks really cool. And then Magdalena, she's also an aspiring environment artist, but she's also skilled in character art as well, and she's very good at her traditional art. So make sure to go give a follow to these guys and appreciate their work. But with all that said, let's get into the podcast. I'm looking forward to this one. Thanks once again for coming on, Jasmin.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited.
Perfect. So as always, Jasmin, we just start off with the obvious. So just tell us a wee bit about yourself, like who you are and what you do, etc.
So I'm living in Germany currently, and I'm going to university in my second year. But at the same time, I'm freelancing, working on my own game with a small team of 3 people, and also collaborating with Sketchfab as a Sketchfab master, where we do contests and challenges, and a series called Women on Sketchfab, where we try to highlight very skilled women in the industry, give them a platform, and just talk to them and interview them. And yeah, that's really important to me. I enjoy doing that kind of stuff a lot.
Awesome. It's always good because it's always important to share and make sure everyone's getting noticed. If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
It's crazy as well. Like you mentioned that because I've actually got one of my guests as well this week coming on from Women in Games as well, and we're going to be talking about that as well. We can actually mention a lot of that today as well. If you're okay with it, that'd be great to talk about.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Perfect. As always, we always kind of, I always base the podcast around sort of like education and then art and stuff. I'll change it up as much as I can now, and we'll see what we can do. But so the first one I always like to ask is obviously about university and studying at university. But is there, I know obviously you're at university now, but is there anything you wish you were learning right now? Is there anything that you think could have helped you improve more?
I think what helped me to improve a lot is knowing what everyone's job is in a team, especially in game development, because one thing we do is having game projects every term, and we create little games, and we have to manage our time and have milestones and see how we get to those milestones. And I really apply that knowledge into my own personal projects as well, to have a plan, to know where I want to get, where I have to start. I think that was very helpful, and also made it easier when I freelanced with game development teams to know where my position is in the pipeline, what I have to do to be a helpful asset to the clients. So I really think that was a good aspect of my university.
Nah, that's great. When it comes to group projects and stuff, because I mention it all the time when, for example, when I went to university, so I finished uni 2 years ago. There was a lot of group stuff. But is there anything you think when it comes to the group projects, obviously you're saying obviously there's so much things that they could do better and stuff, but is there anything you think maybe they're doing right or doing wrong? Is there anything you think they could really maybe improve on?
I think it would be good to make clear from the start what everyone's role is in the group. Sometimes we had the issue that people wanted to take every role, from, for example, designing the game to deciding the art style of the game to what kind of logic is behind it. And that was very difficult to deal with sometimes, to tell somebody, right, I would like to take charge of the art and you do the design, but some people want to do all of it, which is not possible really, because then there's not much work left for everyone else. I think that would be good to have some guidance from the start, so people know what they can do to help in the project and what maybe is not so helpful and just makes the whole process slower and more tedious in a way.
Yeah, no, that's crazy how you mentioned it. Because right, I'm going to be honest. So everyone who's listening right now, this was something that I made a mistake on. So I'll admit, hands up. So when I was doing, so we did this like we had this great project at university, and we actually made like a cat game.
Cool.
And it was completely out of my sort of area. Like I would not expect like everything for me to make. It was like a stylized cat game, and I was like, that's like it wasn't necessarily me, but I actually really enjoyed it. But I'm glad you mentioned that point, because so I was actually one of those people that like I really had this sort of like trust issue, in the sense that like I kind of felt that, how can I describe it, that like, you know, when you like, obviously you don't want to judge people and you want to be like as supportive as you can, but I had this sort of like I was learning my trust through this project, and I learned how to kind of like step back and kind of be like, right, I need to kind of like share the load, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's important, because that way it's much easier to have a successful project in the end.
Yeah.
Because then everyone can contribute to it, and then you see how you can help each other and uplift each other in ways that you couldn't do just by yourself. And that's important later on when you work somewhere as well, because you are going to work in a team if you are working in game development.
Definitely. Like I was just wondering, and like obviously like you're a very like your art is like stylized and stuff. Have you done any sort of like stylized group projects or any like stylized art pieces?
Yeah, during university, actually all of them so far have been stylized.
All right,
My first one was completely just hand painted and very colorful and bright and cute. And then with the second one, I actually wanted to experiment a bit and did it in a watercolor aesthetic. So it looks very 2D, but it's in a 3D space.
Yeah.
Which was really fun to do. And at the moment, we are doing this experiment where we are a group just of artists, where we all take charge of every aspect of the project, which is exactly the opposite of what I just said before. But it's actually interesting, because the goal of this term is to actually experiment and see if we can have a different approach to projects and game development in general. And it's interesting to see how far we can actually get to a game without a designer and a programmer and being in charge of those things. And not just letting other people do it.
That's a lot of work. But then again, hats off to you. Like at the end of the day, like obviously, like that's the great thing as well. Like there's so much things now I want to ask. But it's like obviously like when you're doing like game projects and stuff, or group projects, shall I say, it's nice to get a taster of a bit of everything, because once you kind of like you pretty much nailed it. Like once you do, you kind of understand the pipeline. Like you kind of get to learn how things kind of run and what people are kind of like and stuff. And it's very important, I think. So I think it's going to benefit you tremendously in the long run. So I think it's actually a good decision.
Yeah, definitely. It's like with one of my friends, she used to do 2D and we were in a group, and then she actually wanted to try 3D and see what it's like, and then she saw that she enjoys that way more than 2D, and now she's going to become a 3D artist instead, which was made possible through being in this environment where you can dabble in like different aspects of game development and see what you like and what you enjoy. And even people who've been doing art and then they swap to design because they realize they're much more fit into that role, for example. So I think it's nice that at university you have the opportunity to experiment and see where your path is going in terms of your career and what you want to do, actually.
Like that's the thing as well. Like everyone who's kind of like everyone who's tuning in, obviously like the main point as well that comes from all this is that. So obviously we all have like our career ambitions. There's so many things that you want to kind of achieve, or like maybe your mind's racing right now and you're like, I don't know what I want to do. And that's okay. There's no harm in that. And like you just said there, Jasmin, like your friends identified, I assume it was a wee bit later on, that it was like 3D, oh my gosh, like that's the thing I want to do.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it takes that extra bit of time, that extra bit of patience, and like that's great. Like just go with the flow. Like too many people, I guess. I'm not sure what it was like when you were at university, but I always felt like I was surrounded by, like I was very fortunate. Like I always knew what I wanted to do, but I always felt like there was a lot of people that were very, I don't know, they were panicking. Like they felt that you had to make a decision quick.
Yeah, definitely we have that as well, because you see that everyone has this niche job in the industry. There has to be an environment artist, and even it gets more niche to like different prop artists and technical bits of environments and whatnot. So it's sometimes pressuring to know what you want to do. Even I'm sometimes still unsure, and I'm thinking, am I doing the right thing? Should I maybe not do stylized? Is it too niche? Should I go towards realism, for example, because that's now the trend and it has more of a future maybe? But in the end, you just got to do what you're passionate about and be confident in what you're doing, and it will eventually pay off, I think.
Yeah. Well, then again, like touching on a point you said earlier, because like obviously, so you merge both your skills, so 3D and 2D, and like the one, like my favorite piece is actually one of your study pieces that you did, the food one.
Oh yeah.
Like all the different food, like everyone go check it out. Like you know when an art piece is done right when it looks tasty. So. Like what's the other one? I'm trying to think. The dumplings. That's the one.
Oh yeah.
Like I've never ate dumplings, I don't think, in my life, but I think that's given me the, like, I want to eat dumplings.
Yes. Yeah, you should definitely eat dumplings. They're so good. I'm sure you will love them.
I'll have to give them a go.
Yeah.
No, but that's the thing, because it's like when it comes to like obviously, like you were saying about obviously passion and stuff, like you just have to stick with it, and like obviously you found your way of like obviously you just said there, like obviously sometimes like your mind changes and stuff. I'm actually like kind of the same as well. Like my main thing's environment art, but on the side I love to do like creatures and characters, not characters, like animals. Like I love animals.
Oh, that's cool.
Like at the moment I've been like drawing dinosaurs and like fish for like non-stop, and but like stylized, it'd be great if we can talk about like just style in general. Like how long, like when did that kind of become a thing for you?
Actually, not sure. When I started 3D, it was the beginning of 2017, and I wanted to get better at it because when I was at school, like high school, I kind of thought it would be nice to get into 3D, but I didn't know where to start, and then I kind of left it. And then in 2017, I wanted to apply to university. I was like, right, I need to get serious about this and sit down and just study. And I've always been inspired by stylized games. Throughout my childhood, I only played games that were super colorful, like Animal Crossing, World of Warcraft, and a lot of PlayStation 2 and Wii games. And they were all, when I look back on them now, they were hand-painted and stylized, and rarely they were very hyper realistic because that wasn't a thing back then. And then I started to see that it would be interesting to have a very illustrative look to 3D, because there were so many illustrators out there that I really loved, but I knew that I'm not a 2D artist. Like, I can do 2D textures really well, but if it's just a 2D work, I'm having difficulties with it. So I thought, what it would be like to merge those things together and like make use of my strengths and develop that further. So I just started to study and do a lot of basic like painting, studying, and light color theory, everything that's just very fundamental to being able to paint well. And I'm still doing that because it's still so much room to improve, and every day I'm thinking, oh, I need to do this better and I need to improve on this and study this. But yeah, I think it just developed over time. I started to like find my niche and what I feel comfortable in, because I think I always say that to everyone who asks how to get into stylized stuff, is just do 3D stuff based on concepts that you really love, especially in terms of style and color, because that will teach you a lot about what makes this concept so appealing to you and what do people like about it. And then you can apply those things to your own works later on, to your own style, and develop that. And I think that's what helped me tremendously at the start, because all my first really older works I don't even have in my portfolio anymore were based on really pretty concept art, and that actually made me realize, oh, okay, this is how you make composition work nice, or this is how color theory is appealing to look at, and that helped me in the long run a lot.
No, that's amazing, because like I think so. I was actually mentioning this to Jasmin before the podcast. So we were talking about like style and stuff, and like I understand that obviously like, so one of the main questions I like to bring up on the podcast is like, just like the whole kind of topic of style, because I'm not sure, like, so when you were at university, did it ever come across to you that like there was an impression of that you had to have a style, or because I always kind of felt like there was always, like, when I was at university, that I don't know if it was the students, I don't think it was like the teachers never kind of really said that you would have to have a style, but I kind of felt like there was this sort of like atmosphere in the concept world of that, oh, I need a style now, and I've never, I think you should just go with the flow, like what you did basically.
Yeah, I think that's important, because I also always thought, oh, you have to find your style. How do you do this? And it's really stressing you out if you think you can't like nail that aspect of your work, and it just, you don't want it to look unique and different. So, but then if you like try to get rid of that thought and just focus on the craft itself and see where the journey kind of leads you, I think then during that time you will actually develop your style without trying too hard to focus on that one aspect of the work, I think. Because I sometimes even like don't see that I've got a style. I'm like, oh really? Like when people tell me, oh, this is so your style, or this is like, I really like this, I'm like, oh, what is actually my style? I'm not really sure, but thank you.
No, but that's the thing, is like you've like, just by naturally obviously like working hard and practice and through like observation, like like even in your like your ArtStation challenge piece, like, by the way, another incredible piece. I can't wait to see that finished. Like, because that's another thing, like, so I was talking to one of the guests on the previous podcast called Jacob, and he's also doing the ArtStation challenge. I'm trying to think. It's called, is it the Legend of the Legends of King Arthur? What's it called? Something like that.
King Arthur. Yeah, the Legend of King Arthur. Yes.
Yes, that one. That's the one.
Yeah.
So everyone who's listening, if you're new to I guess art in general, or you're still trying to find like way to develop your skill, Jasmin's taking part in the ArtStation challenge. So like I said, if you're new, check out. So it's on ArtStation, and I'm not sure, is it like well, based on what I've seen, I think it's like 5 main challenges a year. I might be completely off. Is it a monthly thing, or is it like a kind of separated?
I think there were 2 phases to it. So the first one was concept art,
right?
And they had different categories for environment, character, and prop, and I think key art or something like that. And then the second phase is the production phase, where it's film characters, game ready characters, environment, and prop. And each one of them, I think the concept phase was a month, and the production phase is 2 months roughly.
Right, that's great. Because like you're saying, obviously, like the concept. So you're recreating someone's concept from this concept stage, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's the. I'm not sure if you started it yet. So I saw the the sword and stone, like that's so cool, and then the boat, amazing. I'm not sure. Have you started? I don't even know what it is. It's like a tree. Like it is a tree. Yeah,
it's like the story behind this. I think that King Arthur's wife was turned into a tree, and then a part of her skull is on top of the tree with some bits of her clothing and stuff.
Right.
It's very creepy. That's why I wanted to do it, because it's very much out of my comfort zone. All these themes are a bit more grungy and dark, and I like that, so it's fun to do that.
No, well, that's what gives it story, like and like story at the end of the day is everything. It's what makes it worthwhile. It's what makes it fun, and you can start like geeking out about it. You can go into depth about it. Like I would never, like, first impression when I saw the tree, I was like, I have no idea what you're gonna do with it. I was trying to figure out what's gonna happen, because like I was like keep looking back to like cartoons of King Arthur that I watched, and then the main films, and I was like, where's this tree relate? And then but now it kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
It also kind of reminds me. I'm trying to think. What's the? Oh, there was this like, I'm not sure if it was done by Disney, but it was like this awesome film. Must have been done years ago. Must have been like, I'm not sure if it's 20 years ago, but it was about King Arthur, but the boy was blind. Do you remember?
I think I do. Yeah.
It's like, it just reminded me of that sort of style. But like,
yeah, true. Yeah, that's true. It's a bit more dark and not too
like cheery and happy.
yeah, exactly.
That's cool. Like, I'll carry on like the topic of style. Like, obviously, like I'll go into more depth about the student stuff and stuff. But it's always cool talking about different things as well. Like when it comes to like hand painting and stuff, was there any things that you kind of like, any maybe good tips you could maybe give people? Like, obviously, like, it's practice and stuff, but has anything kind of helped you get better the hand painting?
I personally spend a lot of time on Sketchpad because they can view the models in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So I literally was sat there sometimes for hours just zooming in super close, seeing how the highlights were painted in, how the little bits and details were done, and just to try to analyze the actual technique people were doing with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was a bit lost because in illustration, a lot of people always ask, "Oh, what brushes do you use? What brushes do you need to do this and this?" But then I realized with hand painting, it's super simple. You don't really need anything fancy. Just use a round, hard brush, sometimes a soft one,
Yeah.
if you want to do different kind of bits. And that's all you need. And I think that really helped me and made me less stressed about if I'm doing the right technique, if I'm using the right tools, because you have such a limited palette of things you use. And with that, it challenges you more, and then you can understand it easier, I think, as well, because you're not so busy with trying to find the best thing to use with it. For example, I also use Blender, and I first thought, oh, do I need to get, for example, 3D code for Definite, because 3D code is what everyone uses for hand painting. But then I just continued to use Blender because as a student, I also don't have that many financial assets, for example, to buy these things all the time. So I just use Blender, and it works perfectly fine because I'm there also more limited, and I can do the things just as well in other programs. So I think it's good if you start out just focus on what you want to do. Mm-hmm. Just have a limited aspect of things you want to use, and then focus on that. And study a lot of other people's style, I think, as well. Not copy it, because I think sometimes copying could even help, but don't try to sell it on as your own work, if you get what I mean.
Oh, I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah. So just study from it, because that's important. That's what I've did as well. From all my favorite artists that I looked up to, I just sat down and studied it, but I wouldn't publish it or anything. I would just have it in my own separate folder at home and just practice it, and then try to apply that thing I learned from it to my own works. Yeah. And I think that's super helpful and also important, because a lot of people are scared to use reference and they don't want to look at reference because I think that's weird and you should just come up with it yourself, but that's not possible.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, is like, have you ever, I'm trying to think, what's it called again? Have you ever read it's a famous book, Steal Like an Artist?
No, I didn't read that one.
Oh, it's an amazing book. I'm not sure if it's so I think it came out about 5 years ago, and it became a massive thing at our university and all the education. So I went to 3 different places growing up, and basically it was like one of the main points it says is that every idea that you pretty much have is not new, even if you think it is. It's basically just obviously inspiration from other like the people before you, basically.
Yeah.
And it's a good point to always bring up, because I don't know, everyone always kind of has this sort of natural pressure that they put on themselves, and I'm just like, just relax, just enjoy yourself, because I've never, like you mentioned a great point there. I'm not sure if you want to go into depth about it, but I'm not sure it was last week, Jasmin, like somebody like copied your work, and there's a difference between like copying someone's work and then like copying and then not like basically like including their name. Like, for example, like the main thing I'm trying to say here is, like, every time when you're doing an art piece, like the main thing I always do is I always reach out to an artist first when it comes to making an art piece, because it shows the respect's there and it gives the credit where it deserves. And I just wanted to highlight that, because there's still a lot of people out there, like I actually got sent a message, when was it, a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. So I made this train piece. Everyone's so fed up with me mentioning this train piece.
It's fantastic.
Thank you. It's my last piece. It's the only piece I can talk about at the moment. I'm still I'm working on projects at the moment. But one of the guys who came on the podcast and who's also been helping me out, he actually sent me a message in like a panic mode saying, "Did you share your files online?" I was like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, someone's made like your work pretty much exactly." And I was like, "It's okay, it's all good." I recreated someone else's concept, so
okay.
And then he was like, "Phew, okay, we're good."
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
So so obviously I don't want to keep talking about it, but it is an important thing. Like when you're on ArtStation, folks, and you're for example doing what I did over the last 6 months. So I recreated one of my favorite artists' work. Always ask them for permission, or do what Jasmin said. If you're going to recreate someone's work, just don't publish it, because at the end of the day, it's all about the respect thing. Right. On to the next big question. So, well, I better not say it like that. It kind of makes you feel pressured. So, when it comes to getting ready for the industry, obviously, so the normal. So this is an interesting situation. So you're the first like student I've had on. So as in like you're still in education. So if there was something to, I don't know, how could I word this? So I always ask, like, did university teach you to be ready for the industry? Obviously, you can answer it from, I guess, it's kind of a hard one because obviously I know you're not, well, you already got like tons of experience and stuff, but is there anything maybe you think they could do better?
I'm not sure, I'm thinking. I think they should maybe make more clear to others how important it is to have a portfolio and start building that during your time at university.
Yeah, cool.
Because you have so much time, I think. It's really good how much time we actually have. We do have assignments and they're not easy most of the time, but it still leaves you much more time than if you were working full-time or even part-time somewhere. And so I think people should really make use of that time you have and work on personal pieces, try to make projects that you have at university fitting to even put in your portfolio and just work hard on them, I think, because it really is a great opportunity for you that you can actually try to get a job done straight after university and not be stuck on having to work on your portfolio for another 2 years after you finished your studies. Because that's why I hear from a lot of people that they struggled with that during university. They didn't have much of the motivation to work on personal projects. They rather wanted to do other things, which is fine because you're young and you want to do other things as well. You don't want to just be stuck at home and work from 8 to 9 on your projects. And I don't always want to do that either. But I think just to put that a bit of a time during the week on the side to work on other projects as well and have something in your portfolio is super important. And it pays off because right now I have some options after university that I can go back to and contact them when I'm done. So that's really motivating as well.
That's great to hear. Oh, congratulations. I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nah, that's super good. No, because I like what you said there. So basically, like for example, like experimentation, trying different things. So I was actually going to ask something similar to this, and it's basically like the idea of change. So obviously, I'm not sure if you're a culprit. I'm certainly a culprit of this, but a lot of artists kind of get into this sort of comfort zone in terms of like what they're good at and stuff. Has anything kind of helped you maybe kind of break out, or has it just been simply just, right, I need to get better, I need to kind of try something different?
Yeah, I think it's the second one that I realized that I'm hitting a wall here and I'm just doing the same thing over and over, and it's good, but it's not where I really want to get at and it's not challenging me anymore. So you got to switch it up, and I think I hit that when I was getting good at painting, but somehow I realized, right, I'm just painting and modeling, but maybe I should start sculpting as well. Like a lot of people use sculpts for their hand painting base. It makes the process much faster, and it's always good to improve your workflow. So I started to learn ZBrush, even though that wasn't really fun at the start, but it gets like now I'm super comfortable with it, and it's still challenging and fun. And I think that's the whole thing about art. You always want to learn something new. You want to improve, you want to develop, and there's so many tools always to learn. I think that's super exciting about game development as well, because there's never, like, you never run out of things to learn, and that should be motivating, I think, to want to improve.
Exactly. Yeah, because like there's so many different things. Like personally, like I even said it in a tweet the other day. Like the greatest thing about art to me is like, do you know when you have like so much ideas in your head? And you're like, I want to make this, I want to make that. Like, like right now, I'm just like, I'm in like dinosaur mode. Like, as crazy as it sounds, but like, I'm like, I want to make this like sort of like Jurassic World sort of piece. And then on the other side, I'm like, right, I'm making. So my main project that I'm working on at the moment is I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him. So I mentioned in the last podcast, it's a guy he goes by Paper Blue on ArtStation. I have no idea how he makes his art. It's insane. But clearly hard work and lots of practice. But so I'm recreating his piece and stuff. But it's like,
that's awesome.
It's just like my. Oh, by the way, everyone who's listening, I did reach out to him first just to make sure if you're listening.
That's good.
But it's just like that's the great thing about art is like you can just like, but it's also the hard thing is like you can't decide sometimes like what you want to make next, and you get kind of stuck in a loop. Like whereas like to me personally, I know it sounds obvious, but it's kind of touches on the point that we just talked about. But you just have to then like, just choose a project, if you know what I mean, and just go, right, I'm going to do this, and then you just stick with it.
Yeah, that's true. Because like just taking too much time to decide on something is that's what I also have done in the past. That I spend weeks on looking at 100 different concepts and making lists and then thinking, should I do this one? What's the pro and con of this project? But during that time, I could have just started something and see what it would have been like. Like most of the time, it works out anyways, and it's fine and it's challenging, but that's what it should be like.
Yeah.
So just deciding, I think, is the most important step, because that's where most people stop kind of, and then they get demotivated and then they just leave it and then it never happens.
Yeah. Well, you said something there, was it was actually a challenge for me. So you mentioned the word lists. So this was kind of one of those scenarios for me in school. It was one of those things, it was either benefiting me or it was destroying me. It was so everyone who's listening, when it comes to lists, personally, the best advice I'd give you is everything should fit on one sticky note. I know that sounds crazy, but I always kind of stuck to like a sticky note sort of system, because when people kind of have maybe like a whole Word document or just like a massive list, and they're like, right, I want to do this, this, and this, and this. That then kind of kind of floods you too much. There's a word in back of my head.
Overwhelms.
That's the one. Overwhelms you. So it kind of becomes too much, and you kind of lose sight of the obvious things, and
definitely
just like the things that are important. So really think. So do exactly what Jasmin said there. Like if you pick something, you just go with it, and on the day it's a learning curve. Like that's what we're talking about just now, is like learning and experiment. Like be bold. Like try different things. Like there's nothing like you might like reaching back to our point right at the start. Of you trying something different, similar to Jasmin's friend, you might find a new passion.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, yeah, just keep giving things a go and explore different options. Right. So the next question I always like to talk about is sort of like online courses. I think online courses or just online learning. So like anything like websites and stuff. Like because normally I always like ask like, would you recommend junior online? But I like to kind of like change it up. I think more just to kind of I need to start varying things up a bit. Is there any sort of online courses that maybe you either know of or you've heard of, or sites that you've learned that's helped you just overall, whether it's art or just networking, just like overall, I guess?
So far I haven't bought any courses yet. Unfortunately, I'm still saving up because I would like to do a CGMA course.
Awesome.
They're really awesome. And they also have actually one for hand painting and stylized stuff, which maybe someday I can do that one. But at the moment it's difficult with uni and work and having those 10 weeks to put on. But what I've been always going back to is, especially at the start, I joined this Discord. It's called Hand Painters Guild.
Right.
And it has a lot of resources, and there's a lot of nice people in there who always give you feedback, and there's like weekly talks and shares where you can like just talk to people and hang out with them. And at the start, especially when I was super fresh into 3D and hand painting, that was a great asset, because sometimes you're a bit shy to get feedback, especially when everything's super new to you. And before that, I also wasn't that active on the internet and having like a social media presence or anything.
Yeah.
But then just talking to people and sharing your things, and they give you advice and feedback, and they're super nice even about it. They're not judgmental or anything, because I think that's also super important, that people are nice in the way they give their feedback. Don't be too harsh. Don't like destroy somebody because they don't know better. Just like be supporting and still be honest about what should be improved. So that definitely helped me, because it was free, and especially when you're starting out, it was really great.
No, that's awesome. Like, was there? Actually, speaking of CGMA, so like, trust me, like, yeah, I know you already know, but yeah, go for it if you get the chance, because so I had on one of my favorite artists. Was it last week? A guy called Bobby Red Bulls, and he's actually a teacher for them as for CGMA.
Oh, awesome!
And everyone who's listening, it is an amazing like school and system. It's everyone who's listening, take advantage of it. As always, I put every link in the description below. So, for example, every link connected to Jasmin, go check them out. It will be the same for all the links of the teaching that we discuss. Can you just say the Discord again? Because I'm trying to remember the name.
It's called Hand Painters Guild. I can send you the link, definitely. They even have a Twitter and also a website with a lot of tutorials assembled from different places. Perfect. And super handy, and it's great.
No, that's important, because I think I'm not like this. This is the hard thing I always think when it comes to Stylised, is that there's so many people I guess trying to achieve it, and obviously I'm not an expert myself. Like, if I was to try and do your art, no joke, it would take me like years, because it just doesn't click with my head yet. Like, I'm still kind of like going down the realism sort of line. But I love the art style, and I would love to appreciate, to be able to master it somehow. No idea how long it will take me though. But for example, you're speaking of blizzards and stuff earlier on. But that's the thing. Don't even if there is a lot of people, maybe everyone who's listening, if there's a lot of people similar artwork to you, that's not a problem at all. I understand that change, like we've already mentioned, change is crucial, but if there is a certain person that you want to imitate, obviously imitate it, but then eventually change it into your own. It's just as long as it becomes something different, because at the end of the day, you want to kind of make your own art. For example, I'm a culprit of so I tend to make a lot of concept art pieces, Jasmin. I tend to do you know, if I see an art piece, I'm just I have to make it.
Yeah, I do that too. Yeah.
I just don't have the. Well, it's not like I don't have the skill set. I'm still trying to get better at making my own work. I made a Harry Potter piece, cool. and that was my whole design. That was my first ever project. Beside as in on my ArtStation that I would like to show, if that means, if that makes sense. That was the first piece that I was right, I fully designed that. Finally things are flowing. So it's just about like we were saying, going in the deep end and giving it a shot. But when it comes to Stylised, is do you ever I assume do you take a lot of inspiration from outside and stuff, or is it a lot tend to be how do you for example color and stuff, where does your imagination all come from basically?
So with some of my pieces, I also use concept art as a starting point. For example, the temple was based on a really lovely concept by, he's called Grey Cat on ArtStation, I think. Okay. And with that one, I just used it as a base to then expand on it fully, and I did a completely different color palette for it in end, because I realized in the process that the concept maybe doesn't translate so well into what I imagined to do with it. So with color palettes, it's weird, because I always try to explain and think how I actually come up with it, but it just kind of comes out in the process. Well, I just try so many things. I have this whole board where I always post my progress on it, just to look back on it, and it's this full mood board of 100 different screenshots that I've done in every single step, trying out different palettes and different lighting and everything. And just sometimes I'm okay, yeah, this clicks, this works, and then I obviously get feedback, and then, for example, I always book my partner about it and show him every 5 minutes, what do you think about this lighting, what do you think about this one, and he's it's fine, this didn't change in any shape or form. But it just sometimes develops with the process. But if you want to start from nothing, basically, it's super difficult. Like you said, it's way more challenging, it takes a lot more time, and that's why I also want to do more often now, because you learn so much more, I think, sometimes, because I tried that with my last project and I just based it on battle chasers, but then tried to make a new space somehow, and that was still a bit less daunting, because there was an existing IP, you could go back on it, you could look at the game, but it's still so mind-blowing for me still to do these things. It's scary, but then when you're in it, then you're in the mess, and then it's fine, and then you get out of it eventually.
That's the great thing, because I think that I'm not sure, obviously you're the expert for this thing, but it's I think the main thing you could see in your recent piece is your approach to lighting as well. So obviously it's your recent piece is a lot more darker, as in there's not a lot of lights, if you know what I mean, in comparison to how vibrant and how bold and stuff your other pieces are. So like that. That's another big thing is like lighting, for example. Like for example, every time I've brought on a lighting artist, like I'm always amazed by lighting artists because it's the thing that I'll keep saying it until everyone makes sure that they're actually learning it, because it's lighting's something that universities still are so far behind, I think. Like when I was at a university, like I love my university, and they all know I love my university, but I'm always honest and straight to the point. I just wish maybe they brought in a lighting teacher or someone to like that has the ability to not just tell you how to make something look good, but actually like tell you like how it works and like a true like understanding of it. Because like I'm not sure like is like how hard is it? I know it's a pretty difficult question to ask, but what's it like doing lighting for stylized work? It's
pretty tricky, I got to be honest, because I use Marmoset currently for all my scenes. Before that I use Sketchfab, but then with Sketchfab the problem is you only have 3 lights, and it gets very limiting after a while, especially if it's a bigger scale environment, so I swapped to Marmoset. And there it took a while to make it work, because I turned off a lot of the shadows, and then on some of them I have them on, and then you have to be careful that you don't make all the details of the things you painted in disappear, because there is no normal maps, there's nothing, it's just the albedo map and that's it. So you got to work with that. But in the last scene that you mentioned, I have a lot of lights, and I think I've got about 8 or 7 different ones, like some point lights to highlight some bits, then one directional one that casts the shadows, and then a very dark skybox. But as you said, it was such a long process with the lighting, because I had no idea before how to approach something in this mood and this style. I had to just learn it from ground up and kind of like figure out how it works. And unfortunately there's not as many resources for lighting out there, I think, either, especially for stylized stuff. It's difficult to find, I think. Because most of the time hand painted things especially, they don't use any light, it's just all painted in, but that gets super difficult if you have a bigger environment, because you can't just uniquely paint everything. That's not gonna be productive in a sense, especially if you want to do it game ready.
Well, I guess the thing that it doesn't click in my head. So when it comes to so basically when it comes to stylized, are you saying so there's literally only one map in your artwork, so there's no... Wow, right, okay, I did not know that. I need to get up to date with that stuff. No, because like I guess it makes sense. So there's no anything else, it's just purely the lighting and the painting.
It's the albedo map and some emissive maps if I want to have, for example, lamps or something light up a bit, so I make a separate emissive map for some of the things.
Right.
But other than that, that's it. I found another technique some people do is that they use a specular map, but they make it black and white and increase the level, change the levels a bit. I want to try that out, actually. I didn't made it really work yet. I tried it out in Marmoset, where it just changes again the colors, and then you don't have much control of it anymore. So I have to look into that. But it's so far only been using albedo. It's somehow easier.
That makes it even more impressive, because I didn't understand, because for example, when I was in uni, there was a lot of people who were trying to like achieve like the level you're at, and like I never really understood the process, because it was never something that kind of it just didn't click for me, if you know what I mean. But like for example, like speaking of Marmoset, like this is another thing that I think it's a great example. So when it comes to everyone like that I bring on the podcast, like one of the main things is obviously like that I bring them on is because they're great examples to like be inspired by. So everyone who's listening, like for example, there's one thing that you do that I know a lot of artists do it, but I think it'd be great if more people started doing it, and that's I'm not sure what the word is, but do you know when you bring in like you can move around the Marmoset viewer? And I think that's crucial for like if you are listening right now and you're wanting to get into stylized, that's a great thing to showcase for your portfolio, because it just showcases like for example, speaking of lighting, it shows how you thought about the whole scene while you navigate the scene. And like that sort of presentation to me, like that stands out to me. And like obviously when it comes to stylized, color is like the main thing that pops. Like for example, I was saying earlier, like when like the dumplings, like it's like you can just tell it's like you just want to click it, and it's like it's through the color, it's through obviously like the thumbnail, like the presentation of like the angle, etc. Like all these things come into account. but having that little added touch at the end of the Marmoset thing, I think it goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely. Because then a potential employer can also look at your topology. They can look if you thought about, as you said, if the scene works from different angles, if the model is well presented, if how like how the maps are, because you can inspect everything literally. So anyone can look into your deepest secrets of 3D in your Marmoset viewer, and that's good because then they know how you work.
Right. So when it comes to the podcast, I always like to change things up near the end. So this it's completely up to you. So I always like to just pretty much open it up to the guests. So is there anything when it comes to just art in general, whether it's education, is there anything that you think you'd like to raise at all, or I know it's a big question, but has there been anything like maybe that we've not mentioned that kind of stands out to you, whether it's a portfolio, whether it's like other online sources as well, or just anything in general? You can say you've covered all. It's all good.
I'm thinking. I think it's important that when you're starting out, that you have some kind of online presence, that you post your work, you have an online portfolio. Because a lot of people I do know who are great at art, they still don't have a Twitter, they don't have LinkedIn, they don't have ArtStation, and that's really sad because so many people could see their work and it would open them so many doors and opportunities. Because I realized how important it is. I got my freelance gigs through Twitter, just people messaging me, or people who saw my ArtStation and they emailed me. And not having that, it's really difficult to get your foot into the industry, I think. So everyone out there who doesn't have a Twitter yet, make one, post your work, interact with people, and you get to know so many interesting people on there as well. I got a lot of friends now that I know through Twitter, and we meet up and we talk about 3D, and usually it would be much harder to get to know people like that, I think.
Yeah. You mentioned something that I completely forgot to bring up. I was meant to talk to you about Freelance. Damn it. Right, okay. Let's talk about Freelance for a little bit if you're okay with that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's one of the coolest, it's so hard to, it's such a great thing that you've went and gone for it, especially while you're at university. So what's it like doing Freelance? How's the experience been?
At the start, it was a bit difficult because I literally didn't know anything. I didn't know what rate is appropriate, so I really charged super low rates without knowing they were low. Right. Being even scared to ask for a higher rate and just being fine with anything. So I would say to anyone who wants to start out freelancing, research before how much you're asking for and be confident in your skill and don't undercharge because that's not good for anyone. But then when you get a hang of it, it's super fun, especially if you have projects that you enjoy working on. For example, my last one was Slime Rancher, and the team was super friendly and understanding, and they were so flexible about my working hours as well. And because obviously I have university, and they knew that, and they were fine with me working maybe sometimes 20 hours a week or even 10 and swap it up. And I was really fortunate to have such great clients that were so nice. And the actual work I had to do was really fun as well, and it's nice to see something you made in a game finally, and it's such a surreal feeling. It's a great feeling. So far it's been great, but it's sometimes difficult to manage your time, I would say. Like you have to really say, right, I'm working from this time to this time, then I have to do my uni work, then I go back to work, then I have some time for myself, and not just end up being in this spiral of constantly just working and not being able to stop, because especially working from home, it's hard to make that boundary between private and work, I think, because I'm just sat here all the time and doing everything.
Doing art non-stop.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong there, that's good. No, you mentioned, yes, there's so much more I can talk about now. For example, you actually mentioned, so this is a point that, I did a podcast with Tim a while back, and that's another great person to go check out. Everyone go check out Tim Simpson if you've not checked out his work. So Tim came on the podcast, and we were talking about, for example, like online courses and stuff, and people charging too low, and that's the thing as well. It's like I'm really glad you touched on it, because like you need to know your worth, and it's like I understand it could be daunting, especially if you're like, for example, like it must be even more daunting being a student and like being able to like say I have that worth, because obviously it's hard to back up with the whole sort of philosophy or I need experience to get experience, etc.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
it can be very kind of right, where's the proof, basically? Like that's what people will be asking you at times. But personally, like I always felt like if you can do the work, you can charge what you want. Like I know that's a bold statement for me to say, but I think that's the way it should be. Like if you're good, like for example, there's a great friend of mine. He's now working for a great company, and he's literally like one of the most insane artists I've ever met. And but the thing I think he struggled with was understanding how good he was, and a lot of people need to acknowledge, like you said, even speaking about the social aspects, like the social media presence. Through developing an understanding and appreciation of your skill set, and knowing that you need to not only have a presence to get your name out there, but it's like you just have to like believe in yourself. Like all these things come into play, and like I know, like obviously I'll never ask, but it's like if like this is the philosophy I learned from one of my favorite artists. So one of my favorite artists is a guy called John Troy Nickel. I'm not sure if you ever heard of him.
I did, yeah.
Hazard's Arts is what he goes by on Twitch and so forth. But he said a really interesting point. I think a lot of people tend to do this, but so he has his average pay that he goes by, and then he has a thing that he calls his baller rates. So that's when he's just getting, that's the good money, that's the good living. And I love the word baller. That's such a cool word.
It is.
That's when you know you're living the dream. I'm getting my baller rates today, brilliant. But so what he always does is, if you're new to freelance, is like it's always good to like charge kind of quite a bit more, and then obviously then you meet in the middle with the employer.
Yeah, that's good.
Just so it makes sense, but a lot of people tend to kind of like you said, aim kind of pretty low. When it comes to like freelance, like obviously it's a great thing to do. Like what's like, has there been any like benefits? I guess that like obviously you said you've made great connections, and obviously you got your first game, like to make your first art for a game. Like that's brilliant. Has it taught you anything? Like what's it taught you doing freelance?
It definitely taught me how to manage myself and my time,
Yeah.
and how to really be able to say, right, I'm working now 8 hours straight, and I'm sticking to it. Because when I tend to do personal projects, I do breaks whenever I want, I get up whenever I want, I have like it's just more free, and it used to be difficult for me to concentrate for a long time. But doing that and knowing I have to get something done really challenged me and made it now much easier for me to sit down for a long time and just work, and not be too spazzy about to get up and like I need to now do something else. I can't sit now for 3 hours. But you should get up and move a bit, obviously. You shouldn't just sit 8 hours straight without any activity. But what it also taught me was how important it is to get feedback. Again, like always checking if the things you are making are working inside a game. It shouldn't just look pretty and look visually appealing. It should also just be beneficial for the game itself. And I didn't used to really realize that. Obviously, just working in student projects, you just do whatever. But if it's for something which is existing with a player base that expects something specific and it shouldn't be confusing or anything, you need to take those things into consideration. And that's what really stuck into my mind. And now I apply that to anything I do as well.
No, that's the best approach. And like when it comes to portfolio, that's the main one at the end of the day, because you have to kind of you always have to think like at the end of the day you don't own the art if you're getting into a game, and and you need to showcase that you can do the work, because like obviously like if you can make a pretty picture, then that's great, but if it doesn't function with the type of job that you're trying to apply for, then you've pretty much just wasted your time. And
Definitely.
Like that's where the experimentation comes into play, like that we've mentioned a lot, because unless you like for example do the 3D that makes it work within the game, like then there's no point. Like you need to be able to do like the whole sort of pipeline. You need to showcase that you can do like the high poly, the low poly, like the texturing, like a wee bit understanding of lighting, etc. Like obviously, I'm not sure how I assume stylized jobs are pretty much exactly the same as every other job. Like it's just like you have like maybe it's different. Do you know much about how Blizzard works at all? Like I'm not sure if it's like do they have like just like sculptors or is it just like environment art position? I'm not sure how they do it, but I tend it's just the same thing.
I'm sure it's the same thing, but especially Blizzard being a AAA company,
Yeah.
but they have it like also separate in environment art, even prop art, character art, and then
Yeah.
concepts, but they all interfere with each other, and a lot of times the 3D artists even have to come up with concepts as well. So it's pretty open. But in my case, I did have a concept that I worked on,
Okay.
but it was a very rough one, and I had to think a bit further, taking into consideration what in the game is. So that was great as well. So you have to always have your scope on that, I think.
Yeah, kind of put on the spot, but that's a good thing as well.
Yeah.
No, but thank you so much for coming on. This has been an amazing podcast. It's been great having you on.
Thank you for having me.
Anytime, you're more than welcome to come on again in the future if you're ever down. It's been great. Once again, folks. Well, I'm not sure. Is there anything else you would like to cover? Because I think we've covered so much. It's been great to hear.
Yeah, it was great. I don't have anything else to add.
That's okay. I think I've bombarded you with enough questions.
No, it was great. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Anytime. Once again, folks, I'll keep saying it. Make sure to go follow her, check her work out, and the podcast, if you're tuning in, will be obviously uploaded as soon as I can. I've got 3 guests on the podcast this week, and then 4 guests on the podcast next week. So lots of content coming to you guys. And I'm actually going to be changing things up a wee bit with the podcast. So I'm going to be introducing 2 parts to the podcast. I'm not going to share my secrets until it's actually out, just so it doesn't ruin it for anyone. But stay tuned for that. Once again, if you're new, please leave a like. If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe. If you want to be notified, select the notification bell to be notified every week when the podcast is live and for the future podcasts, etc. But with all that said, bye for now, and thanks once again.